Life isn't perfect, and neither are we.
No, but we know how to face our fears
And have some fun.
and talk about all the messiest things of life.
Like the messiest things.
Get connected to yourself, get connected to others, and get connected to the life right in front of you.
This is The Connected Life with Justin and Abi.
That's me.
That's you.
And you.
Hey, everybody. Justin here, and welcome back to The Connected Life. Last week, we started an episode with our good friends, Jason and Lauren Valentin. And if you haven't listened to that already, you need to just go back and do that. This episode is a two-part episode, and that first episode really tees up an incredible journey of the reality of our humanity, the messiness of our humanity, the difficulties that we face in our journeys. And it really begins to stoke this fire inside of you that says, hey, you know what? Life isn't going to be easy, but it can be very successful. And you can find yourself thriving instead of just surviving in the reality of circumstances that can't be avoided. And in this second part of this episode, we're going to get into their journey. It's going to begin with their story of pursuing IVF as an option to get pregnant, as Lauren has such a deep desire for her own biological children, and wants as a woman to go through the process of birthing her own kids. And it's a story that as you step into this next portion of it, it's filled with a wild ride and a shocking event that no one, not even myself, would have seen coming in this situation. And so it's going to be a really powerful experience. But before we get started, there's just a couple weeks left before we get into living fully alive in this new year, 2023, January 11th, it starts. And if you haven't gone and signed up yet, now is a time to do it. You're running out of time to do it. It's a once a year program that we are running. And so it'll be a whole nother year before you do it again. And this is going to be something that is going to change not only yourself, but it's going to impact your family, your friends, and generations potentially to come as you begin to rewire the way that you think and the way that you approach life, and actually find yourself being able to, like, even as you listen to this story, being able to realize, like, oh, I can change the entire trajectory of my life in the midst of the biggest messes if I actually understand myself and I understand people well. So go ahead and head over to Justin and Abi, that's abi.com right now, to check out our courses and Living Fully Alive and get signed up. I would suggest getting signed up in the immersion program. It's an amazing program where you get connected to an entire community of people as they process out their journey. And we have seen such tremendous breakthrough when people are collectively getting into like the messiest places of life together, not just watching information, but engaging it with one another. So without further ado, we're going to jump right back in right now to where Lauren has just revealed that they decided to pursue IVF as an option to get pregnant.
To save you a really long story that's long, but we'll make it a little shorter, is we ended up getting to the point where we felt an incredible amount of peace and actually life on the option of moving forward, pursuing IVF. So we did that.
I like that you guys are led by following your gut in that peace and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And instead of just logic, like, no, I'm feeling it
internally.
Yeah.
And this decision in particular, I would say we did have a gut feeling about it, but we also, we were so desperate to make a good decision that was in line with our value system and our core beliefs that we also did involve a lot of counsel. We got a lot of counsel, both from our families, our dads in particular, physicians that we know and trust that are aligned with our core values, and
our theologian at our church,
and friends of ours that had also pursued a similar journey. So we really did a lot of homework, as it were, and ended up at this place where we felt like, no, actually, this actually feels like a provision for us. That this is an option feels like an absolute provision. We feel very hopeful about moving forward with it. So we did.
Well, and I like that there wasn't like a second class idea about medical in it. You're like, okay, this feels like the pathway for us, not like we're not even considering that. I think a lot of people have so many ideas about what it means to have faith, where they like would just be like, no, we just need to keep doing this one thing, instead of like faith can look a lot of different ways.
Absolutely.
And just because you have in vitro doesn't mean that you're going to carry the baby,
Yeah.
or that she's
No.
going to get pregnant, or
No.
Yep.
it's the starting
It's
point.
another
There are no
risk
guarantees
and
in
jump
life.
again.
Yeah,
Yes.
there's just no guarantee.
It's crazy. Like what you don't know is like, oh, now she's got to get shots every day in her butt on each sides. And by the end of 3 months, like she can't, it's completely numb, both sides. Cause you have to shoot yourself in the butt in this like triangle. I literally drew
In a
it on there
small-
with
yeah.
like, you have to put it in a specific spot every day. So she's got to give herself shots back and forth and take medications, and because everything's very timed out,
Right.
very, very timed. And so it is not like,
Easy.
it is not easy and not cheap. And so, man, that was a big process, but
Yeah.
That's a lot of risk, because again, the more money you spend, the more time and the more pain you go through for something, the more high stakes it feels if it works or not.
Mhm.
it's true.
And the reason why it was really hard for us to determine whether we were going to do IVF at all was because I had this, because everything had, quote, not worked out up to this point.
Yeah.
I was really wrestling through, maybe this is not supposed to happen for us.
Right.
And I was afraid that if we chose to do IVF, it would be us taking the situation into our own hands and, quote, making something happen.
Right.
When what if this actually just wasn't God's best for us? So it was this
Totally.
constant, and, it's not like in those crazy moments where you feel like you're at a fork in the road, God comes down and speaks audibly to you and tells you what to do. You still have to navigate the mystery. You still have to make the best decision you know how to make, trusting your heart.
Yep.
Prayerfully for us, like we had to just do the best thing we knew how to do. And so we did end up moving forward in peace. But in those moments where it is tough and you are like, wow, I don't actually want to give myself a third injection today. I'm sitting there, in my very human body and mind, trying to like rationalize everything that's happening, thinking through it all, going like, are we doing the right thing? Are we doing the right thing? Are we doing the right thing?
Sometimes I think that there is no right thing.
Yeah.
There's no best thing.
Yeah.
Sometimes I think that God's not like, I have this one best path and you didn't take it. Or sometimes I think he's just like, I'm really cool. You pick a path and we'll make it really awesome.
Right.
And so I think at some point, you just have to go with what you really feel like is a great option for you.
Yeah.
And move forward, because the
Yeah.
pain of going back and forth is worse than
Absolutely.
just pick a
Yeah.
really good path and own it.
Well, and in my heart of hearts, where I landed personally was, this is a dream of mine. I completely believe that this dream in my heart matters to God. We are humans, which means that on earth, things aren't perfect. So I have a dream inside of me that it looks impossible. And there are provisions when it comes to impossibility. Sometimes it is a miracle conception, like we experienced the first time around. Sometimes there's medical intervention. That is a provision for you in the moment, because this dream matters. It matters to me. It matters to him. There's no guarantee. We don't know what's going to happen. But I trusted that he was very happy to partner with us in this dream that I had. So we did the IVF process. Fast forward, it went off without a hitch. We were able to, I was able to carry and deliver our first baby girl.
Beginning to end, how long did that?
Well, the process is about, let's see, I started the process. It's almost a year-long process.
Yeah.
Before
the pregnancy?
before you have a baby. So
Okay.
to start
So
to
it-
end is about a
It's
year.
like 3 months, and then they,
3 months of
they
prep
implant
work
the
with,
baby.
like just helping your body get to the hormonal state where it can
Wow.
carry a baby.
Wow.
And then, then they implant an embryo into your uterus, and your uterus either accepts it or not, which is the same process as every single woman's body in every pregnancy journey. You have an embryo, it either implants or not. If it doesn't, you have your period. If it does, you're pregnant. And
you're still giving yourself shots, all the way.
they want you to optimize, they want to make sure you have enough progesterone, enough hormones to actually sustain pregnancy. So but after a pregnancy loss, even finding out that you're
my
pregnant.
body work now?
Yeah, even finding out that you're pregnant, there's still an incredible amount of mystery and potentially fear around anxiety,
You're
around
on edge. Like, what
well,
is
now
gonna
I
happen?
am. Here we are. We're
Yeah.
more invested than ever on an emotional level, but on a financial level, every angle, we're so deep invested. And I'm still here vulnerably living out the truth about life, which is you're in control of nothing. And you
Yes.
just have
So
to,
good.
you have to surrender the entire way.
She would get to a lot of times she would get to a place where she's like, she's pregnant and she's saying like, I just don't feel like it's going to happen.
Yeah.
Oh.
I was so afraid.
I feel like the rug's going to get pulled out from under me.
What were you
Yeah.
feeling?
I'm usually like in those scenarios, I'm usually like, I felt like it was going to happen. And I don't know. I'm just there to be like, yeah, I hear you. I could totally understand why you feel that way. Let me pray for you.
Yeah.
Like, let's just pray through this and talk through this. Like, you're afraid. Like, I get it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So this was a much less emotional journey for me
Right.
than it was for her. Although I did have some moments that were really tough, of course. But most of my challenge was I have a partner who's in a ton of pain and
Mhm.
who's just, this is her biggest dream. So because it's her biggest dream, it's become a massive dream of mine.
Right.
And if we didn't have kids, I was going to be okay. I wasn't worried about me. And so, mainly for me, the hardest part was watching, like, how do I be fully invested in this with her and allow her to have really bad days and me not have a bad day, be there for her and with her in that. So,
Mhm.
yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that makes a lot of sense.
Okay. So you guys have Edie.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it is a
She's
miracle.
magical.
She is. Yeah. It's funny because, friends of mine who had experienced the IVF journey themselves, they had said to me, it's crazy. Leading up to it, you have all these questions. Are we doing the right thing? Are we doing the right thing? And then you find out you're pregnant and you carry this baby and you deliver this baby and you wonder, why did we labor over making this decision? This was a no-brainer. She's here. This is a eternal life that is with us to steward, and we get to raise this little girl. Like, look at her. She's perfect. Like, how could this have been such a laborious decision, Like, of course she's meant to be here. So yeah, she was born in March of 2020. And she's 2.5 now.
Guys, the week that COVID hit,
Yeah.
the week
We won't
that
even
the
go into
world-
that. That is
Well, it's real. Like the week that the world shut down,
Mm-hmm.
we had a baby.
Wow.
And right before they shut down, like people going into the hospital, like husband and wife going together,
You got to go still.
we had our
Yeah.
baby. We get out of there and the
2 weeks
world,
later,
the
people
world
couldn't
shuts down.
go into
That is
hospital.
crazy.
It was
So you
wild.
guys had
on
some
that.
like bonding time.
We did. We got some bonding time. Is the bright side. Isolation would be the downside. Like having a newborn is a bit of an isolating season in and of itself. Anyways, but then
You're like, now I can't see anyone.
Yeah, I was like, wait, I need help.
Oh, and you probably didn't get to have all the friends come
None.
over.
No.
And
No,
That
it
was
was really
crazy.
weird. Yeah, it was weird. So,
And we didn't
whatever.
know if people were going to die. Like,
right.
I mean, it was the
Did we just
very
have
beginning.
a
So
baby
yeah, like, is
to see
everyone
the
gonna
end of the
die
world?
off?
Like,
Yeah, like-
did we have a baby just in time to watch the world end?
Oh,
am I going to
man.
have to hunt for food for reals?
Yeah, right.
Not pretend, but for reals. You know what the craziest thing was though, is Evan was 16 and he's our youngest. So Evan
Of the
was
big kids, yeah.
of the bigs. And my oldest kids are married, Elijah and his wife, Allie. And so any little kid that I hold, I'm always Uncle Jay.
Yeah.
Forever. I'm Uncle Jay. I've been Uncle Jay for,
A lot of years.
a lot of years.
Yeah.
And holding my friends' babies, playing with them, all that
Totally.
stuff. And so
You're great.
we have Edie and
She's born.
yeah, and I'm holding Edie and I'm like, oh, Uncle Jay loves you. And guys, like you would think that you would have a baby and then like you just feel so bonded to that baby. You don't.
Totally.
I mean, I'm sure some people do.
I've heard that from
Sure.
especially a lot of guys.
Dads.
And
Dads.
you want to lie to yourself and say that you do because there's some shame in feeling like, wow, I should. But the truth is like I didn't. And I felt like Uncle Jay. And so I had to go through this weird process of like grieving a little bit of I was going to be done.
Right.
Yeah.
And
right
now I'm friggin' starting over
From scratch.
from the very, very, very beginning, which I can remember the beginning a long time ago.
You're
And
like, I already know what this season is.
Yeah.
I have to go through this whole thing again. Wow, it was crazy. And
because you're
It's
what
a
age?
lot.
When
I was 40.
Yeah.
40 exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, 40.
That'd
You
be
were
like
almost 40.
now.
Yeah. Me having
You
a kid
were,
right
remember
now.
you had your
Close
40th
enough.
birthday in COVID right after she was
Yeah,
born.
close
Oh.
enough. 39 and 3/4.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I had this moment where Edie was probably like, I don't know, maybe a month and a half old. And it was really early in the morning. And Lauren was super tired because that's what you are, is you're super tired
All
when you
the
have
time.
kids all the time. Yeah. It's ridiculous. And so Edie woke up and it must have been like 3 or 4 in the morning. And so it was like cold. So I just like put on the closest thing to me. I'm in my underwear. I'm like in my orange Clemson on boxers. And I'm painting this picture on purpose. And then like I put on her
You
bathrobe.
reached for something
Yeah.
warm. It was my bathrobe.
Yeah. So, which doesn't fully fit,
No.
right? Like it's tight. My arms are sticking out of it. I put it on and I'm holding Edie and I'm so tired. Like you do this zombie rock where you're like rocking your kids. And I remember looking up and I see myself in the mirror. Yeah, this big mirror. I see myself in the mirror. And I just look horrible, right? I look like sleep has just been
Life has just
slapping
beat
me in
you
the
up.
face.
Yeah.
And I start laughing. And I realize in that moment, like, oh, this is how I bond. These are like the tired, the fatigue, you're crying, you need something from me. I figure out what you need in order to get you to stop crying. Like, this is the process of life which creates real bonding.
Struggle.
This is it. It's the
Struggle
struggle
is what creates.
and me meeting that need and like us working together and me learning you and like me taking care of Lauren and me putting off my like selfish, like, I just want to sleep more. What's wrong with you? And for me, that was doing what we do for a living, right? Like helping people and realizing, because when I had kids the first time, I'm 19, so young, and you have a hard time thinking about anyone else when you're 19.
Absolutely.
No matter how hard you try.
Yeah.
And so raising kids when you're so young is like, man, look at all these things I have to do today.
Totally.
But being 40, I'm like, it brings up this whole new, like, I'm building your foundation, little one.
Yeah.
And we're bonding together. I understand on a physiological level, psychological level, spiritual level, even more what my role is in her life. And it's so much more gratifying than I ever thought it was going to be.
Right.
It's crazy.
Yeah. I think that people don't understand how deeply we bond as human beings in the sacrificial process.
Yeah.
And that's where I even talk to people about dating processes is like,
Yep.
if you just dive into a relationship and don't have to pay a price, there's a bonding that ends
That
up
you
getting
miss.
missed out
Yeah.
on. And because that bonding carries you through the most heavy and difficult times. Like, oh, I paid a price for
This
you.
is literally Justin's whole thought on our marriage. He's like, I'm never giving up because I've already paid a lot.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
true.
Totally.
Yeah.
It's true. I worked off a Ferrari, Like,
Yeah.
It's like, I'm never trading this in.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But yeah, it does happen inside of that space. Have you,
Sacrifice.
by the way, because on that note, you're talking about the difference of approach from being a 40-year-old dad versus a 19-year-old dad. And has there been conversations, I'm just curious, with the other three of like, guys, sorry, first time around,
Oh, man.
I was
Right.
really young.
Right. Versions.
Yeah,
Of
there are. And I think that it's a continual process, right?
Yeah.
Like I'm sure we're going to have more conversations
that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
because There's just
you
no way to
learn
do. There's
more
just
by
no way to
40.
do kids
No.
young, or any kids for that point,
Yeah.
and to not mess it up.
Yeah, you'll have conversations with Edie in 20 years.
Absolutely.
We will.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And things we didn't do great, things that we could have done better, things I should have done more, and throw a divorce on top of that, throw a nervous breakdown on top of that. It's just that I have so many regrets, and people are like, you shouldn't have any regrets. And I don't have regrets in the sense that like I hate myself for them.
Right.
I just, if I could go back and redo so many different moments,
Totally.
I would, because it cost my kids so much.
Right.
But we can't. And so, for me, it's repentance. It's like, okay, what can I do different now? How can I still parent my kids that are old?
Yeah.
Because they still need
Right.
parenting.
Still
in
Oh,
them.
How
yeah,
can I be a better
parents.
dad in my 40s and in their late
Exactly.
teens, early 20s than I was in their childhood, which is a conversation I have with a lot of parents that are really down on themselves. And I'm like, look, there is a ton of conversations probably to have of like, yeah, I really messed this up. I didn't know better. I didn't have like a picture of what it was supposed to look like.
Yeah.
But those conversations, those don't have to be bad. Those are even bonding conversations inside of that. And you
Right.
don't have to have shame. But like you said, there are regrets, and we all have regrets. And especially if they're shame-free regrets, it's like, no, I would do it different. Now, how can I now knowing that I would do it different, how will I do it different?
It's
Yeah.
true.
That's the number one way I beat shame is like, well, yeah, I really messed that up. Thank God I can keep changing my life.
Totally.
Like,
You
thank
don't
God I
have to
can
stay
just
there.
keep choosing and do different.
Can I
Imagine.
ask one thing, Lauren, here? Because obviously she comes into the picture. This success happens. What did it feel like overall? I mean, I imagine, yes, this is amazing, triumphant. Obviously, stuff starts getting brutal, having to actually do the work. But what's going on inside of you?
You know,
Wait, hold on.
Yeah,
before
yeah.
you answer that. I think I love following you on social media, which we'll give both of you guys' handles and stuff at the end of this. But because you do such a good job of articulating the beauty and excitement with the normalcy of what real everyday life is like. And I remember so many posts after she was born of you actually sharing like, this is amazing and this is very normal and hard too. And I think there's this idea that people have, and I know I used to do this all the time. It'd be like, you had a baby, now are you living the dream? Like there's this idea when you see
I'm
somebody
miserable today.
Some kind of
like, you
dream.
got married. Are you living the dream now? You got the job you wanted. Are you living the dream now? Like, it's like we all think that when we get the thing we've been longing
there it
for,
is.
that
It's true.
magically makes
us
life
happy and everything's
perfect.
perfect. Yep.
Wow.
And so, what was it like?
Honestly, even you asking the question, like I think about this stuff all day. I think about this all day long because of how profound it is.
Yeah.
It just captures me because you're right. Like there is no arrival. You do not arrive at complete fulfillment in life. You arrive at a new set of needs and a new set of challenges that you didn't know you had. And you hopefully grow in love and in your capacity for imperfect humans in your life and imperfect situations in your life. And you arrive at a new daily need to surrender everything. Like there's no attaining the goal. There is it is an illusion. Like arriving is an illusion.
Yes,
and so
true.
the horizon keeps moving. So I remember, and part of this is absolutely postpartum hormones. You cannot deny the power of postpartum
So true.
hormones. But I will tell you, the first 2 weeks of having our very desired little girl.
Now, how many
at
years
home.
had you guys been?
7.
7 years at this point.
7 years into our journey, we brought home a baby.
Wow.
And I remember laying in our bed, an absolute
I wish I could
mess.
show the pictures.
An absolute mess. Physically, emotionally, mentally, a mess. And she's crying. And I'm looking at him like, you've done this before. What do we do? I'm like, help. And I'm crying. And it's the middle of the night, And I literally said to Jason, I am so sorry. I've made a grave mistake.
I think I really hurt our marriage.
I think I've ruined our life.
Jason, were you like, I don't want in your head, I don't want to hear this. We're already
No,
committed.
he's laughing.
No, I'm just like,
He knows this is part of the process.
He's
have your
laughing at me.
moment, woman.
Totally.
Have it.
He's laughing, going, see, I told you it cost a lot. You know, it's like, I told you. He's like, probably feeling like, oh, I'm so glad she's in touch with the cost.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's such a cost associated with making this very enormous life decision to have a child. So I'm sitting there just weeping away. For weeks I wept. Just like I am so in love with her. Look at how perfect she is. God, you are so good to, fulfill this dream of mine. And so painfully aware that we have not just arrived at some sort of utopia.
No.
We are in a moment, new moment where I am being stripped in a new and very profound way. And I am watching my old life that had so much freedom in it and so much time and so many runs to TJ Maxx for fun. It's just like my old life is slipping away and I'm watching our quality time capacity dwindle.
Yeah.
I'm watching my attention span for our big kids like shrivel away. I'm watching, but I'll tell you what, in that moment, those really exhausting postpartum hormone, I've just ruined our life moments. I remember very distinctly having a day where I sat there and I was like, oh God, thank you for waiting 7 years to answer this dream.
I could not have handled this before.
I couldn't have done it. I couldn't have, and I could have, right? We would have,
It would have been so hard on our
but
marriage.
the time that we were able to give our big kids, the years that they lived with us without our attention divided, the years I was able to, I had nothing else to bond with but them.
Yes.
I had no other person to pour out my mom energy on but them. And I felt so thankful because I realized having a baby in the best case scenario, having a baby will cost you 100% of yourself.
Totally.
Yeah.
Like, hopefully that's the case, right? There's parents out there that have kids in horrible circumstances where they're single parents or jobless or homeless. Good God. Like, there's so many situations where they can't afford for a baby to cost them 100%. So it's actually best case scenario.
Yes.
This child is costing me every ounce of myself.
Yeah.
But I felt so thankful that I was able to give that to her because we had done all these years before her where I just felt really thankful that my energy wasn't more divided.
Thought.
Yeah.
I think that when, a lot of times people have judgments on how their story unfolds. And I talk to them about the idea, like, your story hasn't been fully written. You haven't exited Earth yet. And there's something about allowing ourselves to sit in the mystery of what our story is going to look like and how it's going to unfold that in the long term, we're able to go back and read our story and withhold our judgments about ourselves, about God and everything else. When we're in that till the end of it, till the whole story has been written out and we go, okay.
Oh yeah.
Now I can see my story. Because like when you're looking back on the pieces of your story, when you're in it, in the 7-year process, this is crazy. And you can be judging your story and how it's not working. And then you get a little ways from it. You go, oh, that chapter makes sense now.
Yeah. Yeah. I felt most, actually remember being somewhat into our journey of trying for babies and it wasn't working out. And I had a conversation with Jason's dad. I walked away feeling really offended and really misunderstood because he essentially said something along the, my interpretation of what he said was, well, it's not working out when you want it to, but you know what? Maybe you should just stop trying until the big kids are out of the house. I felt really offended at the proposal of that timeline and, the invalidation of this dream I had to raise kids with, blended as a family and all of that. But truly coming around to the other side and holding our newborn. She was born the year that our middle oldest child, Riley, graduated from high school. She was born the year that our oldest got married.
Wow.
And Evan, as Jason said, was 16. So he's in high school and, thriving, like just a big
Living
kid,
life,
right?
yeah.
They're living life. And I remember just thinking back to that conversation with Jason's dad going like, actually, maybe he was praying that we would actually just be able to take care of these kids because that was, I just feel in my heart like God loves our big kids so much that he would like make sure that the timeline suited their needs. I just think that it was what they needed. I'm so glad they got 100% of us.
And then the other side of me says, God may not have stopped any of it. It just may have been purely
Absolutely.
merely
I suppose
what
it's
happened.
just hindsight is
Yeah.
2020
Yeah.
in that you get to look back on the journey, like Justin, you've said, and say,
Yeah.
wow, it worked out. Like we're
Right.
all right.
Thank
We're
God
better for it.
we don't always get what we think that we want
Exactly.
when
Yeah.
we want it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And I love that he climbs into, a friend of mine always talks about how he climbs into the boxes that we create
Mhm.
and is
Yeah.
willing to climb into our boxes and our messes
Yeah.
and
Mhm.
stuff. And
Mhm.
he climbs into it, and he's a redeeming genius, right? And he
Mhm.
goes, all right, well, this may be your human circumstance.
Mhm.
Here's the way as I want to redeem it. And a lot of times in stories like your guys's, people can even be like, where was God inside of this? I don't know. He was inside of the counsel that you guys
Mhm.
had, the
Right.
loving friends
Yeah.
that were there to grieve with you. He was inside of the doctors that were participating in
The dog that we
process.
got for me to cuddle.
Yeah, like
It's
there's so many
true.
ways
Yeah.
that the redemptive nature of God shows up
Mhm.
in the immensity of our humanity and messiness
Right.
that we're experiencing
Mhm.
in life.
Mhm.
And if we're solely focused on this is what it has to look like, we'll always be disappointed. We'll
Yeah.
always feel defeated. We'll always feel abandoned
Yeah.
if we'll keep it so limited our eyesight. But like you said, you look in retrospect and you go, oh, I see the bigness
Yeah.
of where you showed up in what could have been, God didn't delay a thing, but he participated in
Totally.
the delay.
You know, it's interesting because this is like what I'm most known for in giving advice that has helped people is not sugarcoating things.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
I remember multiple times people have been like, I'm scared my dad's going to die. I'm like, he might. Well, I mean, he definitely will, but it's like,
Yeah.
my dad has cancer. I'm scared he's going to die. He might. And you're going to be
Yeah.
okay.
Mhm.
When I was growing up, the advice was always like, no, I remember like, if it's a desire in your heart, God will make it happen.
Yeah.
Like,
Totally.
Oh, if you want to be married, you're going to get married. If you want to have
Yeah.
kids, you're going to have kids. If you want to, and we like trivialize this idea that God will always give us what we think we want just at
Mhm.
some point. And what that does is it sets us up to be very angry by feeling unloved and rejected and
Mhm.
abandoned.
It's true.
Yeah.
If something doesn't happen the way that we thought that it
Yeah.
would.
Yep.
And I think everybody has to go everybody processes a moment like this, I think, in their life where something didn't go the way they thought that it would. And they have to look at, who do I see
Yeah.
God as while I'm in a moment of disappointment and
Yeah.
grief? And so I really like that you said, like, he might have been doing that for the kids, or it might just
Totally.
have been this,
How it
because
happened.
it's hard for us to actually know, and how we label things can affect how we see them in the future.
Well, and to say that,
But I
think-
also like the idea you have. I like
know.
both sides, because
Well,
I'm like, it's
isn't it-
beautiful to think of God
Yeah.
as loving, and it's beautiful to think of him as not controlling.
absolutely,
Yeah.
it's both. And I do really feel like those are the moments in life where, your brain, our humanity tries to connect the dots.
Yes,
Our brains always try to
absolutely.
make a
Yep.
story. Like
Yes.
we're living in a story. We can't help it. It's how we were
Mhm.
created.
Yes.
And so we're trying to connect the dots and we're trying to write the script. And I think where we get in trouble is when we write a few chapters ahead and determine that it can't look any different.
Yes.
And we
Yep.
get stuck, or, we feel defeated if it doesn't look exactly like we think it's supposed to look, like you've said. But then also, I think there is a lot of power in knowing that even if it just comes to our desire, the desire, fulfilled or not, is going to lead us on part of this journey.
Exactly.
The desire that we
Yes.
have, the way that we're following our heart, is actually what creates the story. You just don't know the outcome.
Yes.
So you just don't let go of your desire because you can't help
Absolutely.
it. You can't help
Yes.
wanting
Yep.
something. You can't help feeling like you were created for something. So follow it and see what happens.
Absolutely.
There's no telling.
You guys are so good at articulating things. It's like you guys do this for jobs. It's like you guys have emotional intelligence.
We try.
Okay, but your guys' story isn't over.
No,
We're still in the story. So
Yeah.
let's get back to that. So you have this girl,
this beautiful
and
girl.
you are in it.
We're in it and we're doing it. And she's the biggest blessing to our entire family. The big kids
Yeah.
adore her.
Amazing.
I have this heartwarming, like, you're living in the reality of, oh my gosh, she's the one thing we all have in common.
Yeah.
She's all of ours. Like, this
Aw.
is stunning. Like,
That's
God, thank you
cool.
for this gift. She
Little
belongs
Edie
to all
bear.
of us. Edie,
Cute.
yes, Edith Annalise, just this precious, she's such a doll. And, I told you about my postpartumness. I'm like regretting it at first.
Yes.
And then we get into it. And of course we're like, wow, this is the most greatest thing. And Jason, as he said, is going, wow, I didn't know I'd love it this much. I didn't know I would feel this bonded to her. I didn't know, my fourth child would be this great gift. Like we're loving the season. And I started feeling like, oh, I don't feel done.
Jason.
Boy. Oh, here we go.
And I'm feeling very different. I'm like, okay, you got what you want.
Yeah, you
Your
got
dream
what
come
you
true.
You got what you wanted.
You can raise her on your own. I could still be retired from kids.
Oh my gosh. And I'm going, I really feel that she needs a sibling in the house with her. Like I very much don't want to be her only playmate.
So Jason bought her a puppy.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm fine with you being her only playmate.
Yeah. And I just, I very much felt by the time she was 9 months to a year old, I felt like we have to start talking about when we're going to do that one more time. Cause I think we're supposed to do the IVF process one more time. I really feel like we need to plan that. I don't want you to, I know you don't want to be any older than you are. I don't really mind the age thing. It's not bothering me, but I know that you're feeling old and you really want to be done. So we need to put this on the calendar. So we had a series of pretty painful conversations.
What was it like for you?
I came to a point where I felt pretty sure that I wasn't going to go through with that. And so I started to prepare her. I just started to think like, I have to have some more really honest conversations with her because this is such a big deal for her. And it's becoming a really big deal to me.
Were you feeling frustration build? Like,
no, I was feeling afraid that one of the mistakes I made previously in my first marriage was being afraid to have needs.
Right.
Yeah.
Especially if they were going to cost somebody else something.
That makes sense.
And it's just part of my nature. High pleaser, love to please people, not even in a bad way. Just I get so much joy from it. And then, so I've just gone through so many years of like, okay, sometimes you have to have the conflict in order to create a real connection and real peace and whatever. And so I just realized like, man, I don't know that I have it in me to do this journey, the IVF, the needles, the hormones, the going to South Carolina to get, embryos implanted, the money, all that stuff. And like, I'm 41 now. I'm just like, I don't know.
And he was in the middle of a startup with a nonprofit organization. He's
I'm doing what I want to do.
Right. He's feeling a lot of momentum. He's very aware of the cost associated with having a small child. I'm not going to want him gone all the time. Right. He's feeling like, how do we follow this momentum in our life and honor the season that we're in and also make a choice to like go back to square one again, so there's a lot involved for him.
So I told her, we started going on walks and I tell her like, hey, I feel like I'm done. Like, I just want to warn you, I love what we have. And she's like a little bit crying. Like, I don't want to just do this one time. And I don't want Edie to not have a sibling. And I'm like, she's got 3 siblings.
They're all
and
taking
just
care
hang
of her.
on and she'll have nieces and nephews that feel like siblings.
Yeah, that's true.
Soon.
Yeah.
Our other kids are going to have kids soon.
Yeah.
That's going to happen. And so anyway, she had left to go home to visit her mom. Go ahead.
Well, can I just say,
you can say whatever you want.
We had these little conversations and then we had a big conversation where, and I'm going to tell on myself for a minute too. Part of his reasoning for not wanting more kids was that there were some areas in my life that I still needed to grow in that I wasn't really walking in a ton of freedom and breakthrough in certain areas, which I'll label in a minute. But he was basically like, I don't want to do this with her like this again.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And part of it was there's something in me that is prone for over responsibility and over functioning when I feel anxious or out of control. And it causes me to still, I mean, I'm absolutely still working on this. This is not like in a spot in my life that feels like buttoned up by any stretch. But having the baby and parenting the older kids and being in the season that we were in, my mom was diagnosed with cancer in that season. We were going through a lot of different things at work. Sorry, all of a sudden I'm like, whoa,
That season
yeah,
was
that
hard.
was tough.
Oh,
that
wow.
was a
Life
really
still
hard
has challenges.
Yeah, it was a super hard season. So the best of me was not coming out. I'm over functioning all over the place. I'm trying to control the hell out of our
everything.
life
Yeah.
because everything feels like it's hit the fan. And he's going, you're not at your best. We're not going to add a baby to this mix. This is not what we're going to do.
Fair.
That makes
Now,
sense.
if you, woman, were functioning in health in these areas and could handle another huge load of responsibility on top of what's already on our plate, maybe.
Which I think
But-
this is wisdom.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
This feels very wise. And I think a lot of people run over this concept.
I'm looking at our capacity.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, what can we handle and
Yeah.
and really thrive in?
What can our marriage handle?
Yeah.
Like, how connected do we feel? Are we doing a good job prioritizing what we have? Or what,
Mhm.
So to be fair, he's being a great husband in these moments. Like, I felt like he was being a very good leader of our home and our family in this moment. Yet I'm devastated. So then, we have this huge conversation. He's honest with me. He's basically like, you're the problem. And no, that's not what he said at all. But what I walked away was from, I walked away with this narrative. I started telling myself, like, you're keeping yourself from your greatest dream.
Oh.
Your unhealth, your dysfunction, Lauren, is keeping you from your own greatest dream. Bummer.
Yeah.
What are you going to do? What are you going to do?
Was there
Was that shame or like activation?
an essence of truth of like, oh, I actually
Yeah,
am keeping
it actually felt, I did feel shame. I felt, I'm not by nature, I'm not super hard on myself.
Yeah.
But I was very much like, ooh, you better figure this out. Like this is, because even if this is a done deal, maybe we're not going to have any more babies. This is still going to rob you in your life. Like you need to figure out how to own this part of life that doesn't feel top notch right now. So it was a commitment to, okay, you know what? Totally. I'm going to dig into this. I need to see a counselor.
Love
There's some
that.
things that
That's
just feel
good.
like, woof, I probably better sort this out regardless of whether we have more kids. So we had this really crazy conversation. I left to go on a trip. I took our daughter, Edie, back home to visit my mom, who I had said is sick. And I go on this trip. We're away for probably 10 days. And about 4 days into the trip, we're talking on the phone. And I just tell Jay, I'm like, God, it's like a drop in the conversation of things that are happening currently. I'm like, yeah, Edie's good. Yeah, no, we're good. Yeah. Mom, dad are great. Yeah, totally. I really need to start my period. I feel like it's, I'm just feeling it. Like hopefully I'll start my period. He's like, you told me that yesterday. I'm like, yeah, I know. It just hasn't come. And he goes, how late are you? And I wasn't tracking anything, right?
Totally.
Because like
Which is
our
not her
baby,
normal.
Yeah.
our baby was 14 months old, and it's impossible for us to get pregnant. And I'd only had like 3 periods since
Right.
having a baby.
Totally.
So I'm not tracking anything. I'm like, I don't know.
There's not a normal.
No, there's no normal.
Yeah.
And there's no question mark, right? So I don't know. He's like, well, figure it out. How late are you?
You instantly.
Your anxiety's going through the
So
roof,
I-
bro. And you're like,
Like,
what is happening?
What's happening?
So I look at my app and I'm like, like pretty late. Maybe 8-9 days, for me, which is a lot late.
Yeah.
And he goes, what if you're pregnant? And I just laughed. And of course I was like, totally, what it, and then we
we're
kind
both
of went,
like, we've been on this journey
Yeah,
so long.
totally.
7 years of this.
but all of a sudden, something in me, I was like, I actually felt pretty sure that I was
Wow.
all of a sudden. So of course I'm on the East Coast, he's on the West Coast. I get up early in the morning.
You go
I
get
am
a test.
at Walgreens
100%.
early o'clock.
Yes. Early
I get
o'clock.
home. It is positive as positive is.
Oh,
And I'm just waiting
What a
for him
twist!
to wake up. For him
Dun,
to wake
dun,
up.
dun.
I had to sit alone with this. Yeah. So we.
She calls you. What do you?
She FaceTimes me. And as soon as I see her FaceTiming me at like, I don't know, 7:30 or something, I'm like, oh, wow. I bet she's pregnant.
Yeah. So I was pregnant, and just
I was hoping for a girl.
yeah, so that it could just be Lauren and the girls.
Yeah.
He could still maintain his sense of freedom, right?
Yeah, I'm just
Like girls still
trying to
need
figure out
dads or something.
how do I stay free? Like, how do I?
So let's just backtrack though to say that while we were having these knockdown,
Conversations.
drag out conversations that felt so incredibly painful and vulnerable, I was already pregnant.
Oh,
Which is
man.
awesome in the sense
great.
that you got to have a voice
Mhm.
and have needs, which is so like good for you and powerful. And there's not a sense of like, I didn't say what I wanted or needed.
Mhm.
And you did get to confront her, which is really important.
Yeah.
So I love that you did that.
And not only that, but it sounds like it provoked, Lauren, you on a trajectory of like, I need to deal with my stuff.
Yeah.
Already engaging it beforehand, like, and I'm assuming that you continue to participate at some level.
Yeah,
in
for
that.
sure. Well, I would say, I mean, yeah, there's a lot that happened in those first few months of being pregnant, just the shock and I mean,
Okay, it'd be crazy.
oh,
No.
it
Because
was
you
crazy.
guys you're like, we can't get pregnant.
Yeah. Oh,
On
yeah.
our own,
There's
very
no
hard.
way that that's going
Shocking.
to happen.
It was shocking.
Turns
And
out you're
turns
more
out,
potent than
wow,
you know.
what in the world?
I've always known it.
Oh my gosh. Well, and there's a lot of layers to the crazy. It was our due date so we had a son. He's 8.5 months old right now. His name is Liam.
Mm.
And his due date was March 15th. Our first baby that we lost, the due date was March 17th.
Wow.
Whoa.
So it was
That's a tumultuous ride.
All of our
Yes.
babies
all
are
of our
born in
babies are
March.
March babies.
with us.
So apparently we get pregnant every 2 years in June.
June's a big month for us. We don't leave the
Because you can
house.
finally go in the boat.
Yeah.
I don't know
It's
what's
good fishing.
Yeah, good weather.
Needless to say, we see you, June, and
we
we
will not be touching the month of June.
we see you coming. Yeah, so a lot of layers to the craziness there, but when we found out that we were pregnant, I think for me, beyond the just, oh my gosh, this is the greatest, most surprise gift ever. If we
Surprise.
thought we were surprised in life, this is the ultimate surprise. Like, how could we be, just when we think, here's the truth, just when you think you know
what
back to
it's
this,
going to look like.
just when you okay, we're going to do IVF again. This is going to be our journey. Oh, Jason doesn't want to do that. Okay. Just when you think you know the path.
Uh-huh.
What? We were going to do IVF again. You know, it's just like this
Unexpected.
crazy
Uh-huh.
surprise of life. But for me, it was kind of like a fast track to, oh, you are going to have a baby and you do not want this to be hard on the family the way that it could be. You want, yes, Lauren, work on your stuff because you're about to get another dose. This is going to be another weight of pressure, which is not bad, right? Pressure in life is not bad.
No.
It grows our capacity. So you're about to get another dose of pressure. You're going to raise 2 babies, turns out. You're going to have 5 kids that you feel responsible for in life. You better work out this stuff that you got working.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So
How are you doing?
Yeah, I think for me, the first half of it was like, wow, okay.
Like,
besides the fact that God totally trumped Jay and decided not to pay attention.
The truth is like, I'm
kidding.
tired.
Yeah.
You know, I've been raising kids for a long time and in some challenging situations, and I'm tired and I want to do the stuff that I want to do.
Totally.
You know, I just selfishly,
Yeah.
like I want to go and do men's events and hunt and whatever, go just to not have it affect
Your life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyone else's life. And so I think in the beginning it was like, oh, a little piece of that's, I got to put that back in my pocket because that, you know, I'm not going to be like without that pressure till I'm 60.
You're like, oh, I can hunt whenever I want at 60.
At 60. Right. Like,
Yeah.
I'm so
Totally.
glad you're talking about this because I know so many parents who struggle with this feeling.
they want to go hunting and they can't till they're 60. I'm starting a group for that.
Oh my gosh. Support group.
No, but the feeling of
Yeah.
like having kids, you don't realize how much you give
Yeah.
up what you want all
Oh,
the
yeah.
time. And it's not something that I think people think, no, I'll just magically feel these great feelings towards these kids.
Yep.
Instead of being like, no, it is a lot of times grief consistently.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think also a lot of parents can feel guilty for having that emotion.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Right. Like I actually want to be able to do my own thing
Yeah.
and feel like they're a bad parent inside of that thing. But the truth is there can be I actually want freedom and I love my children. Like that
Oh,
tension
yeah.
can coexist. That I value,
Absolutely.
I love you. I'm glad you're here.
Mhm.
And I want to get away when I want to get away. Like it's okay
Mhm.
for those two things to coexist.
Yeah, it's why 60% of all people who have kids experience a negative in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how you don't.
Yeah.
Is just so taxing.
There's a
So,
loss.
but you
Yeah.
know, and I wanted her to have a girl
Right.
because again, the three girls can go to Paris together and they can go
Totally.
shopping together and they can go
Yes.
do all the things together. And we already have girl clothes, so it's cheaper. You know what I mean? Like
Totally.
I'm just a practical guy.
Yes.
And so we did this reveal, right? And I was sure it was a girl.
We were both pretty
The
sure.
heartbeat was a little bit fast.
Yeah.
You know.
We thought it was a girl.
And then we like turned the poppers like, and it's blue. And I was like, wow. Oh, wow.
Wow.
Were there like, did the doctors give you something for a
No,
reveal
no,
like that?
no.
Or, like you didn't know. You didn't
We
know.
didn't know.
We
Our-
went to the ultrasound
doctor-
and had our doctor write it down and keep it a secret. Like,
Oh.
put it in an
and we
envelope.
gave it to our friend
And
Heather
they put it
Armstrong.
together for you to
Yeah.
And they put it together, yeah. So
this
we
is
all like,
blue.
I know I'm gonna pop it, and it's gonna be pink, and we're all gonna be like, "Oh, it's so cute!" And
Yeah.
we
Oh,
pop
we're
it,
raising
and then we're both like,
sisters.
"What? What? How did we have a boy?"
How did we get
As if
pregnant?
it was
How did we have a
yeah,
boy?
As if it was so crazy that it could have been a boy.
I
Like, it
thought- I
could
thought
only
I'd
be
have
one
a-
or the other, but
Yeah.
it was shocking.
I thought I'd
Yeah.
have a dinosaur before I'd have a boy. You know? So, but it's just so cool. I'm at this point where I'm like, this is the best. I have an 8.5-month-old boy that, like, she has Edie and I have Liam, and I'm sure that maybe Edie will bond more to me than will her in certain things and whatever. But it's really, really cool. I've fully embraced this is my life. This is a season. Probably what I thought that I would want, I probably wouldn't really want. So, the idea of like hunting everywhere and doing endless men's retreats and probably not really what I wanted. It's
Yeah.
definitely not what I wanted now. And so
Right.
the flip side of it too is now I'm how can I be more intentional about pulling my kids into my world?
Yeah.
And we're going to give them a lot of effort, energy, attention when they're young,
Mm-hmm.
and then they're going to give a lot of effort, energy, and attention, in doing what we do as they grow older. And I've just kind of settled my heart in that spot of like, well, Liam's going to go on a lot of trips,
Men's
and-
retreats and
Yeah.
hunting
And Paris,
hunting,
hopefully.
yeah,
and Paris, hopefully.
Yeah. yeah, and and Edie will too, and so she every night. This God's so good, right? Like every night, Edie wants me to tell her a hunting story.
Shut
I
up.
promise you.
Mhm.
That is your
I
daughter.
didn't even.
Yeah.
I
that's
didn't
true.
even.
It's in the DNA.
I
It's
didn't make that
something.
happen. Like I
No.
didn't. Some people on here are going to be like, "Yeah, this
You
was just
conditioned.
like that didn't
Mhm.
happen."
It's in her.
She asks every night, and she'll go like, "Tell the rattlesnake story. Tell the mountain lion story.
Tell the skunk story.
Tell the skunk story."
Can we look at skunk videos?
Oh
Tell the
my
moose story.
gosh.
That's wild.
And she calls it talking about her day. Can we talk about my day? So
true.
when I put her to bed at night, she
Oh.
goes, "Dad, can we talk about her day?" Yeah, we can talk about her day. And if I try to talk about her day,
The actual day.
like, "Edie, what happened today?" She'll go, no,
the
no,
skunk
tell the
story."
skunk story.
It's
and-
the day that happened in her mind.
So I get more and more detailed every night about I was on a red motorcycle and I had Elijah with me, and she'll say, when Elijah was little, and now she knows the solution for if you get sprayed by a skunk.
Uh-huh.
I'll say, "Edie, what did I do for the dogs?" She'll say, "Hydrogen peroxide,
Dawn dish soap.
Dawn dish soap,
Baking soda.
Baking
and
soda
vinegar.
and vinegar.
She knows the recipe.
She knows the recipe.
To take care of a skunk smell.
You're literally, you have a child that's prepared for the end of the world.
Yes.
She's
Oh
2.5.
She's 2.5. She's brilliant.
It's so funny.
So, I get to do all this stuff.
You're going to go to Paris with Liam and he's going to go hunting with
that might
Evie.
happen.
That is not happening.
No.
No. Well, I'll move heaven and earth before that happens. No, but it's cool because, we get to do this again, and we know so much more than when we started.
Yeah.
And we just have doing kids the second time around. One, technology is way better.
Yeah.
So, we have
access to help, information.
night vision in our kids' room, like
Right.
night vision. I'm watching them like they're fine. She's not even like irate yet. and we have more money than we did.
Yeah.
When I was 19 and
Yes.
laid off for
Chopping
6
firewood
months, chopping
for
firewood to make
a
money,
living.
Totally.
and our friend
Yeah.
group is so much better.
Yes.
And which isn't going to eliminate the problems, but it adds this crazy, there's just gifts around every
Mhm.
corner.
It's good.
And so, I think for me, I'm just so excited to be where I'm at in my life and to do it with Lauren and all the years
Thank you.
of investment into doing things right, from dating all the way to it's just a no-brainer. People who don't do it right and continually make wrong decisions because you think that it's going to be easier, it just makes your life so much harder and you
Yes.
never reach that tipping point.
Yes.
Lauren and I are starting to reach that tipping point in our marriage and in our life where we've sowed and invested in communication skills and processing through our past and owning our own trash and building friend groups and financial stuff that we're still, and it's like we're starting to hit tipping points where now it's like we renovated this house and now we're getting a residual income.
Yes.
Like we're making money while we sleep.
Yep.
That's a great place to be in life. And although we're not fully making money while we sleep,
That's
literally,
figurative. That's figurative. We actually aren't there yet. So
but emotionally,
Yeah.
yeah.
and we have something that most people don't have, and it's because at one point we had the foresight to go, we have to start this journey right
Yeah.
in dating, and we have to make the right decisions here because that's going to fold over to here and that's going to fold over to here, and we have done that and paid a massive price for that. And so it's great. Life our life is getting better and better, despite the challenges that we all face in the world, despite the challenges that we face with kids getting older and me getting older. And, so.
Yeah.
What would you guys say? Like if we were so we're looking at the broad journey of your life, which is what, 12 years, the last 12 years?
Yeah.
And talking through the story, if you had a couple keys that you're like, if I could give these few things to people from this process, what would that be?
Oh my goodness.
I know.
Yeah, for me, I think I don't think it matters what process you're in. You have to be able to really be okay with where you're at and accept it.
So
and because I think that it's so hopelessness and purposelessness to me, which can go hand in hand, are some of the biggest killers in relationships, right? Like
absolutely.
I don't feel like my life has meaning and purpose right now, or I don't know the meaning and purposeness in this scenario, and I feel really hopeless about what's happening.
Yeah.
That's letting our pain drive our decisions is one of the most, devastating things that we can do in life. And so I think Lauren and I have done a great job only because of the challenging stuff that I went through and some of the stuff that when she went through before we got married. I think us being able to just really embrace where we're at. And you can wish that you were somewhere else for a little bit, but you can't do that forever.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's like your sickness or Justin's his past. Like you can wish that all that stuff didn't happen, and you can wish that you have an easy marriage, but you just don't.
Yeah.
So now what are you going to do?
Absolutely.
And really taking ownership, processing through the pain, I mean, continually building that toolbox, right, of skill sets and tools, and whether it's communication or whether it's literally 5-step process through working through pain, or those are just, because we do this for a living, it really is kind of a cheat code. Because I do this for a living, I have to study. I have to do it in my own life. And if I was a carpenter, my house would look different.
Totally.
But because we give these tools out all the time, we hold ourselves to a really high standard in these areas, and it really pays off. Yeah. And so I think a lot of people allow their hopelessness and or this just feels meaningless in my life, those two things, and they never break through the pain, and therefore they just stay in it forever. Yeah. Because if you continue to push through, eventually you figure it out.
Absolutely.
Whatever it is.
Yep.
Even if it's a devastating outcome.
Absolutely.
You know, her mom has cancer. We did 54 days there last year, and at her home, because we didn't think that she was going to make it a week.
Right.
Wow. And so 1 week turned into 2, and 2 turned into, and you know, that hasn't been resolved. Her mom's not fully healed yet. And for me, that's just another example of like, we don't get to decide the outcome, but we do get to decide like how invested emotionally, mentally, physically, spiritually are we going to be in this process. And everything wants to push away or run away or, you know, avoid all of that. But that doesn't create a love-filled solution. It's all fear-based. Yeah. And so I think for me, and I know that like a lot of that can be like too lofty, but I think we have to be willing to engage in our life and embrace it no matter where we're at right now. You have to start somewhere. If you're overweight, you have to start somewhere. Totally. Yeah. If you're emotionally devastated, you have to do something tomorrow that you weren't doing today, which you could read the Tiny Habits book or whatever thing works for you, you know, get into community, but you have to do something that's adding value to your life and not measuring the result by, okay, where am I going to be tomorrow? Right. It's like, what's the right step to take? When I was in my divorce, and like, I remember calling my dad and telling him like, I don't know how to, like, I don't know the right path to take, if I'm supposed to do this thing or this thing. And my dad said, son, sometimes it's hard to know what the right thing to do is, but you know what the wrong thing to do is. Right. Just don't do the wrong thing. And so a lot of areas in our life, I feel like I don't know what the perfect right answer is, but I sure as heck know that this is the wrong path. Yes. Pick one of these right paths to do, and then do it consistently over and over and over and over again. That's good. Till you see some fruit from it.
Yeah. I think I had time to think of my 3 while he was talking.
Oh, that's good.
So I'll be a little bit more bullet pointed, but I think I would say when you're facing life and when you're facing hard things, which is inevitable, make connection the goal. If you're married, make connection with your spouse the absolute goal, so that you're addressing the issue as a team. Yes. And not putting the issue between you. Good. Make connection the goal. Don't let fear make your decisions for you. It's good. Like in line with what Jason said, you might not know all the right things to do, but you know what not to do. You know, don't let fear make your decisions. Yes. At least don't do that. And then also don't do it in isolation. Like don't figure out how to not live life in isolation. You want to figure out how to live life in a way that you're allowing people to see and input. You can see what I'm up to. You can see what I'm doing. You can see who I am, and you can give me input, and not just your spouse, because that's too close. Yep. It's too close. You've got to figure out, I think we've had to figure out a way to live life vulnerably in front of other people, not from the stage vulnerably in front of other people, but actually like in my living room. Yes. There's people that are allowed to come in and see all the different parts of me and give me input. Yeah. Those are the 3 main things that I would say.
That's really good.
That's amazing.
I love you guys so much. Yeah. And I feel so honored and just love. I was like, I hate that we had to do a podcast to have this conversation because it's just so fun. But I'm so glad we had mics on for the conversation because I'd want the world to hear it. you guys are so generous and wise, and you really have behind the scenes, you guys are the same as you are in front of the scenes. And I feel really, really proud of the journey you both have been on, constant growth, constant. That's why I wanted you guys on here, because I'm like, you have gone through a wild story that feels so human. Like the older I get, the more I realize that's human.
Yeah.
I think I thought there would be a straight path, or that some people got a straight path,
Totally.
or that, and the older you get, you see like, no, actually most people's lives twists and turns differently than they imagine. I know for me, it happened so different than I imagined, and learning to accept what is and come alive there is a very brave thing to do. And I just feel so proud of both of you. And if you guys want to follow more, which I'm sure you will, Jason, both you can find him. What's your Instagram handle?
Jay Valentin.
Jay Valentin. And also he has Brave Co., which
is a men's ministry.
Yeah. If you're a
Go
man,
check it out. Yeah.
check it out.
Where can they find that?
Braveco.org or braveco.men for Instagram.
Yeah. It's we have lots of people in our programs who talk about doing the Brave Co., and they love it. And it's
incredible.
Yeah. I just think anything that's providing support for men to have more community and more emotional health and more ability to learn about themselves and
Authentic
grow
conversations
is making the world a better place. Thank you for doing that. But
and also in January, Lauren and I are launching our podcast.
Oh,
Yes.
shut up.
Yeah.
Very
We
exciting.
didn't even plan that.
I know.
What's it
That's
called?
cool.
Do you guys know?
Yeah, it's called Dates, Mates, and Babies with the Valentins.
Cute.
Dates,
So
mates, and babies.
Yeah, if this,
I like
if
that.
this conversation is interesting to whoever's listening, that is the premise of what we're going to talk about
I
on
love
our
it.
podcast. Just
Perfect.
kind of all things relational.
I love that.
Yeah, we're
It's
excited.
a long time in coming. You guys should do that.
Yeah, we're excited about it.
Very cool. Okay.
I love you both. I'm thankful to have you on.
We love you guys.
It's been so fun. I was sitting here multiple times just being moved, going,
Oh.
Me too.
I want to cry, not just at the sad
I
things,
teared
but
up
also
multiple
at the
times.
goodness
Yep.
and the process. And it's so easy to participate in conversation with you guys and stuff like that.
Thanks
So,
for having us.
yeah, thanks for being here. Anyways, hey, everybody out there, rate, review, subscribe, and share. Like if this has impacted you, go out and let the world know about it. Share it with people who need to hear a story of like going through the hard stuff and finding life in the midst of it.
And hope and redemption.
Yeah. And also Living Fully Alive 2023. It's starting up January 11th. Go ahead and jump on to Justin and Abi. That's abi.com. And go ahead and get signed up for Living Fully Alive. We want to have you there. And peace out, everybody.
Bye.
See ya.
See ya.
See ya.